there, everybody's connecting in now. There's Margot. Hi, everybody. A pleasure to meet you all. Today, we're going to talk about building a social media movement in North Central Florida. But before we even get into that, I'm going to run a poll of my own here. The voting is going to be a little bit different because we're going to have a bit of a word cloud up here on the screen. And we're going to do this a couple of times throughout the course of the presentation today. So you can do two things. You can either go to the website pollev.com/chrisstrub882, or you can text the word chrisstrub882 to the number 22333. And once we see your word starting to appear on the screen, I'll know that this is working. So if you have your phone in your hand, you can send a text message. It'll say you've joined Chris Strub's room, and then you should be able to do that. We'll do it here with you just to make sure that it's working real quick. And then we should start to see your responses up on the screen on the word cloud as well. So you can either go to the website or you can text Chris Strub882 to the number 22333. I'm doing it right now. And then load. Waiting for your responses there. Who's going to be the first one to get their word up on the screen? Somebody says hello, so I know that it's working. So tiring. Okay, here we go. Everybody's jumping in now. Intimidating, engagement, fun, love. That's good. I like seeing love up there. Fascinated is good. Tiring is very interesting to me. Somebody else said inspired. That's good. Thank you for that. It's almost like I put that there as a clue. Overwhelming seems to be the overwhelming answer here so far, Leslie. So that's a little frightening, but hopefully by the time we get through this hour, overwhelming will not be your number one answer. I see necessary, argumentative, interesting, draining, useful, fascinating. Okay, so we're going to circle back to the end of this. We're going to circle back to this at the end and see how your answers change. You can continue to vote if you want to, and this will be cool. I'll actually share out this slide in its finished version at the end of our presentation as well. My name, again, is Chris Strub. I am the Giving Day guy, in addition to working the Amazing Give, which, of course, was supposed to be in the spring. Now it's in August. I work a number of other giving days around the United States, including San Antonio, Louisville, York, Pennsylvania, St. Louis, and here in South Carolina, where I'm based. In Columbia. I'm actually based here in Greenville, South Carolina. I write about nonprofits successfully using social media to drive results for Forbes.com. So in fact, even though most of us were just meeting for the first time today, you may have read an article that I've written over the last year and a half. You may already be familiar with some of my work already. I wrote a book called 50 States, 100 Days, the book, where I traveled around the United States 5 summers ago and worked with nonprofits in all 50 states. And I've worked with some big brands like Humana, Big Brothers, Big Sisters of America, and the Salvation Army of the USA. And before we even get into anything, I just want to say I really stand with all of the social activity that's taking place around the U.S. Over the last couple of weeks. This has been a crazy time. We're going to talk about how we can approach things differently on social media throughout this hour. But I'm very supportive of all the different social movements that are taking place these days. Again, about today's presentation, I encourage you to live tweet. We're going to touch on Twitter at the end of the presentation a little bit. You can use the hashtag #TheAmazingGive, which we'll take a quick look at, and you can tag me at Chris Strub. If you have questions, you can tweet me, and like Leslie and I both said, we'll take some questions at the end. You can feel free to take screenshots as we go along as well, but I'll make sure that everybody gets the slides. And all of the people that I mentioned, any gear that I show you, and any of the apps that we touch on will all be listed in an appendix at the end. So again, moving with some expediency, I'm going to make the case for spending time on social media. Then I'm going to show you how to best divide your time on social media, because I know that our most limited resource, the most important thing that we have, is our time, which is why I'm so grateful that you guys are spending some of your time here on a Wednesday afternoon with me. And then again, we'll take questions at the end. So A lot of people that I've worked with over the last couple of years, especially in the nonprofit space, say that email is the most important aspect of their communication strategy. And that's why I like to start by talking a little bit about email. You can see a screenshot of an article that I wrote recently that by the end of 2020, nonprofit email open rates had exceeded 25%, which is enormous. It's one of the highest of all email open rates across all industries. It is up significantly, over the year prior, 2018, and only governmental organizations had a higher overall open rate. I just wrote another follow-up article to this last week that actually this year, during the coronavirus pandemic and all of these lockdowns, nonprofit email open rates have actually risen to close to 30%. They jumped 4.4% over March 2020. Unsubscribe rates, which you might think might have gone up, have not. In fact, year over year, nonprofits sent more than 40% more emails in March of 2019, in March of 2020 than they did in March of 2019. And yet those unsubscribe rates staying steady is a good sign that we are very much able to reach people via email. So when I come in and talk to you about social media, the importance of social media, I want to make sure I set the premise right off the bat that this should not replace your email strategy as a nonprofit. And in fact, you should be using some of your email voices to, or some of your email sends even, to support some of what you're doing on social media. Because in fact, as we can see, both email and social media play a role in donor relationships. Facebook, Facebook, according to this study that I wrote about last November, is the leader for new donor acquisition, which is something we're going to talk a lot about today. But your existing donor base tends to prefer email. In fact, 42% say that they prefer email, but close to 40% say that Facebook is that preferred channel to identify new organizations. And again, we're not just exclusively talking about the Amazing Give today, but especially as we lean into that Giving Day in mid-August, that's going to be a huge opportunity for you guys to all find new donors. And again, according to the study, nonprofits did agree that finding new donors was their top priority in 2020. We know that nonprofits really do rely heavily on social media to engage their audience. We know that 69% of US and Canada nonprofits say that social media is an effective means of fundraising, but only 40% of nonprofits in the US and Canada actually have a social media strategy in place. So what I hope to achieve today as we talk through some of these principles is that you evaluate what your strategy is, not just the tactics and not just what you can do at any given time on social media, but more so what your approach is, especially now that we're about 10 weeks out from the Amazing Give. And before we talk about anything technical, I really do feel the need to remind all of you guys, everyone watching right now, whether your video's on or off, that you are famous to a few people. This is a principle that I talk about in every presentation that I give, whether I'm speaking to nonprofits or at other social media conferences, wherever. You have to start out what you're doing on social media by understanding that your message matters, that what you're doing on social media, what you're saying on social media makes a difference to people. And we have to move on from this idea of vanity metrics, of looking just at the overall number of views or even the number of comments and shares. And remember that when you're speaking on social media, you're speaking to somebody. You're speaking to somebody whose life you may impact with what you're doing. And so I have this all over my apartment. We are all famous to a few people. I got the t-shirt, got the bumper sticker on my car. If there's one thing that you take away from this presentation today, I want it to be that you are famous to a few people. So no matter how many likes you have on Facebook or how many followers you have on Twitter, what you say matters. And the message that you're going to deliver to that audience, no matter how big it is going to make a big difference. I also want you to remember that storytelling is not a magic wand, right? Again, everyone looks at, what I do and, oh, Chris, just tell our story. Let's just tell our story. And we just assume that everyone's going to come running to what it is that we're doing and what we're saying. Not true, especially now in the face of this data here that again, when we look at this line graph from Q3 2008 up until 2019, you can see this exponential growth in the number of Facebook users. That definitely correlates with the number of creators out there. Every Facebook page, every person who's on Facebook now is battling for your audience's attention. And so when we say we are all famous to a few people, yes, but we're never guaranteed the attention of that audience. This is one big reason why I'm such a big fan of Giving Days, is that it really gives nonprofits in that North Central Florida area the opportunity to really grab the microphone. I don't want to grab my mic because it's going to come falling down, but really grab that microphone and say, look, today is our big day. Come listen to what we have to say. That's a big part of what I'm going to be helping Leslie with and their team on August 19th and 20th, is really bringing attention to the great work that you guys are doing, not just through the channel that we have, but through your own social media channels as well. And so I want to remind you guys off the bat that you are doing great work. Every single one of you guys, no matter how many likes you have on Facebook or how many views your last video got on Facebook, you are amazing. I do what I do in awe of all of you guys, of every nonprofit out there, especially now in 2020. I understand the hurt that a lot of us are going through. I've written the articles, that 80 to 90% of nonprofits are needing to cut services and even in many cases cut staff. It's so painful, and yet people want to celebrate the great work that you're doing. They want to support you. And the only way that they often can see what you're doing is when you have that courage and that gumption and the tools that we're going to talk about to be able to share your message. That people will respond to the great work that you're doing, but it has to start with a belief in your own heart that what you're doing really matters a lot. And then people will gravitate to you when you have that courage to step up and stand and deliver. So I want you to take a quick second and think in your head. Now, ordinarily, if I had more time, we do another poll here. I would ask you guys which side your organization is on, whether it's more, you consider it more important to speak to your existing audience and your existing donors, or to build new relationships with new donors, right? So again, I'll give you 10 seconds to think it through. But of course, we know the answer is, wait, I do have a poll there. So you can actually vote on this. If you go to pollev.com/ChrisStrub882, you can vote either A or B. If you've already texted in, you can do that just by hitting A or B, or you can vote on the site if you have that up on a separate tab. And it's cool that we can see your answers up there. I forgot that I left this in, but you can see engaging with our existing donor base is leading right now, 66 to 33. Very interesting numbers here, Leslie, and it's cool to see how it's adjusting here in real time. That most of you guys seem to say that engaging with your existing donor base is most important, which is good. So we're going to move on here. Looks like we finished up 68 to 32%. I appreciate you guys being on the ball there, keeping your mobile device in your hand. But really the answer, of course, is that it's a trick question. Right? That we can't pick one. There is no one answer there. We can't say one is more important than the other. We have to be able to do both, especially again, as the Giving Day approaches. We know statistically that Giving Days are always a great way to cultivate new relationships, but also a lot of us have those existing donors on hand that we want to be able to communicate with on a regular basis. And so again, just to look quickly at the stats before we dive into the differentiation between the different platforms, we know that 95% of US and Canada nonprofits use Facebook. 99% have a Facebook page, 95% of them are using it. Just over half are purchasing Facebook ads. Just over 40% are using Facebook Live. This is a great study, by the way. If you wanted to check this out at nptechforgood.com, it's really valuable, really tells you a lot about the usage of a lot of different pieces of technology that nonprofits are using. You see 56% use Instagram, 64% use Twitter. And so when we look at which side of that coin you said your nonprofit is on, I look at this as sort of a balance between these three primary apps: Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Facebook, in my opinion, is going to allow you guys to connect better to that existing audience that you already have. Instagram is going to be somewhere in the middle. Twitter is really going to be more on the side of helping build new relationships. Now, all three of these apps can be used for both of those purposes. Don't get me wrong, but this is more how I would shape your strategy. And I look at it more this way, that Facebook is really the base of what you want to, of where you want to be creating. And then as you work your way up, as you feel more advanced on social media and you're able to do a little bit more, then I encourage you to step into Instagram and then build your way up onto Twitter. And definitely keep Twitter in mind on August 19th and 20th as the collective momentum that is brought in from a giving day really opens up to being able to find new donors on Twitter. But we are going to spend most of our time today here on Facebook. I recognize that Facebook, of course, is the most important social media app for nonprofits all around the world. Again, more nonprofits actually use Facebook than have their own website, which when I saw that, when I saw this study and I wrote this headline last year, it blew me away. This was one of the most popular articles I've written for Forbes. More nonprofits are actually using Facebook exclusively than they are using their own website. Insane to think about. So with that in mind, I want you to think about Facebook as your home base. People should want to go to your Facebook page to learn about what you're doing. Your Facebook page should be a resource, much like your website, or even more so than your website in 2020, that people, when they go to your Facebook page for the first time, they'll be able to learn exactly what it is that you're doing, when you're doing it. Again, I know a lot of you guys already use Facebook this way anyway, if you're sharing events or you're sharing updates, or of course you're making an ask. But I urge you in 2020, do not rely on Facebook's algorithm to serve content to your audience. Don't expect that when you post something to Facebook that everyone in your following is going to see it. Organic reach as of 2019 was estimated between 1% and 6%. We can safely downgrade that number even more now that everybody's in a lockdown of some sort, where even more people are posting to Facebook constantly. So the idea that we're going to talk about today is creating content on Facebook that people want to come watch, that people will type in CFNCF on Facebook and they will come to your page to see it, rather than playing the game and rolling the dice that your content is going to be seen in the newsfeed. We know that native video on Facebook is consistently favored by Facebook's algorithm. And of course, that live video is favored even more than non-live video. And that's why I like to focus a lot on what we can do on video. I'm actually going to skip this video because I have a Gainesville specific example. This is a great video though, and I wanted to leave it in the slides so that when we get the slides to you, you can watch this as well. But we're going to show you a video here from the Child Advocacy Center from last year's The Amazing Give.
Also, the Maple Street Biscuit Company down the road at Yoga is participating in donating proceeds as well. So come join us for a delicious biscuit. Also, even more importantly, we have a matching minute challenge coming up in a matter of 8 minutes. 8 minutes. So we need you to, what do we need you to do? Yeah. So you can really make the most out of your donation by donating during that 1 minute from 11 to 11:01 a.m.
Okay, so I'm gonna pause the video there. You get the idea that these two young ladies work with the Child Advocacy Center. They're at the Maple Street Biscuit Company, and they're there just to share their story. This isn't complicated. They didn't use a ton of different technology to be able to share something like this. I went through and researched a lot of your different Facebook pages, everyone who was attending as of yesterday morning. And very, very grateful to everyone who registered last minute. Thank you for coming. I know I hounded a couple of you on Twitter to come register as well, because I love seeing all your smiling faces. But this sort of video is very simple. One thing that I would mention here in the description of this video and the other videos that they've done, make sure you pay attention to the description of the video that you're posting as well. And oftentimes when people do see it in their newsfeed or they're deciding whether or not to click play, give even more information in that description. Sometimes when you're typing in and you want to go live, you can always go back after you do your video and update your description. Another thing that I would add, again, not to break this specific video down too much, but I would definitely tag the Maple Street Biscuit Company location or any other brands that you may be involved with in a particular video so that that brand knows to be able to share that video to their own followers. Again, looking at the location of the Maple Street Biscuit Company where these guys were sitting, said, wow, they have another 1,500 people that they could have reached if they had tagged that page and then asked, gone over to the desk and said, hey, we're doing this video. Can you share this out for us? And boom, all of a sudden, maybe your reach is doubled. So I'm not going to break down a ton of specifics about all the videos that we mentioned, but the principle is here that data makes people think, but emotions make people act. There's a reason why my video is on for a presentation like this, that I want you to see, not just hear what I'm saying, but see what I'm doing. I bought a fancy new Florida style shirt for this presentation, right? I've got my whole setup here behind me. I got my Give for Good Louisville hat on here with my brand button, and my yellow is my brand color. So I snuck that in there as well. But there's so much more that you can say and do and make people feel through video than you can with any other kind of social media post. And oftentimes we get so caught up in how many times we're going to post during a given week or during a given month, or did we post 6 times today? I've gotten this question multiple times and I answer at the same time every single time, which is, again, Chris, we could focus on making a great video, or we could focus on posting 50 times throughout the course of the month. Make the great video. Think about what stands out to people. Think about what people want to share. Think about that principle that people are going to want to come to your Facebook page to check it out. Make something that's so special and so interesting that people want to continue to share it out after it's done. And I encourage you to go back and watch that Columbia example. I'm trying to move quickly so we do leave time for questions, but make something that is really interesting to people that will stick in people's minds. Make something that is really valuable to people, and reallocate some of your time. If you have yourself or your social media person is tasked with creating X, Y, Z many posts in this many, forget about that. We have to start thinking about how we're creating something that is really interesting and exciting for people to watch, that sticks in their minds and that they really remember. Because, and I love this flame animation. I hope it's working okay on Zoom. 57% of people, according to QGive, who watch a nonprofit video go on to donate. And I just saw Leslie's reaction on the video there. That was my reaction when I read this too. When I saw this study, I was like, no way. But QGive, that's a legit company. People that watch your videos will feel compelled to give, even if they're simple, even if they're just set up like you just saw at the biscuit company. Just talk, just be yourself, humanize your brand. No matter what your mission is, I guarantee you there's a way to humanize it. I'm sure I'll get that question at the end of this presentation too. Oh, my brand, we can't be on video. We'll cross that bridge in a few minutes when we get there. But just keep this stat in mind, that people who watch videos donate. And again, live video works even better. Again, Facebook really favors that live element in the algorithm, again, especially during a giving day when all the community's attention is turned towards what the nonprofit sector is doing. So why Leslie and I, we're going to do a lot of live video during the Amazing Give. And also we're hoping to encourage you to start using live video. And I want you to start to think episodically, which we're going to get into as well. But a lot of people ask, what are some examples of, some videos that we can do? Again, you can do videos like this, a staff interview. And I want you to watch real quick, just the first 1 second of this video. I'm going to play it again here with Kathy. Okay, that's all we need to see. Kathy is the CEO of Wellspring. This was her very first Facebook Live video. Now, I'm sitting on the other side of the camera. I was supposed to interview Cliff, and then I was like, Kathy, you're the boss. Everybody knows and loves you. Why don't you interview Cliff? She was like, I don't know. I don't do live video. I've never done this before. And you saw in that first split second of the video, Kathy sort of jump when I pointed to her, and we were live. And then from that moment forward in this video, Kathy was just cool as a cucumber. She was relaxed. She had a great conversation with Cliff. This piece was the most watched video that Wellspring, which is a mental health organization in Louisville, Kentucky, has ever done. Still, years later. And it was a product of her just being herself and having a conversation with the staff member, Cliff, who is a product and who is recovered from his own mental health struggles and now works for Wellspring. And again, when you watch through an example like that, you're going to want to rewatch your own videos after you're done with them and think through what you could have done better. That includes the lighting, that includes the sound, that includes every element of it. So rather than me just pushing all of this equipment on you, which I should also say that I'm not paid by any of these companies to push any of these brands. These are items that I've invested in myself, including, I'm gonna be a little bit darker here. This ring light, which you see on the right side of the screen, works really, really well for me. But if you don't have big ring light, you can use a little one like this. You get one of these for $5, $6 on Amazon. You get a tripod like this. I have like 3 of them in my apartment. This screws down. This is like 15 bucks on Amazon. It's just an Amazon Basics. This is a 60-inch tripod that has legs that extend. And you want to start with your sound. So I've got my Samsung Go mic. If you watched any of my videos from other giving days or what have you, this connects into your Android or your iPhone. And then this is your handheld. They also have a lapel mic. Again, moving quickly because I have a lot to say, but those items are available at strubstuff.com. And if you have more questions about the gear, I can send you a blog post that I wrote that describes even more of that. Here's another example of a video that I was not part of.
We are live in Austin, Texas at Big Brothers Big Sisters of Central Texas. We're at their beautiful new building. This is the outside. We're going to go around for a little tour of their new facilities.
So there's 2 things I want you to watch for here as I continue to play this. One, you probably have seen already, give you a hint. And number 2, you're going to see as soon as we get inside.
At the Texas State Association meeting, Christina, welcome, from the Central Texas office, is going to guide us. You ready to go inside? All right, let's go. Come on. All right. All right, welcome to our building, everyone.
So here we go. We're going inside. Now, who's inside?
And there's Brett going up the stairs. Oh, he's hiding up here. We can't catch him. Christina, what is your title? I'm Christina Snell.
So 2 things that we noticed. Number 1, again, the video. Again, I can see some of you guys shaking your heads. Yes, the video was shaky. And so the next tool I'm going to show you is how you address that shakiness. The second thing is the CEO snuck up the stairs and was hiding on the stairway when we walked in the door. And so when we look at how we're organizing videos, how we're doing our planning in advance of what we want to create on social media, think about those people that you're going to interact with. And if Christina had gone in and had a quick conversation with Greg, he could have just been standing there in the main area and just given a quick word, said hello. Instead, it looked kind of silly that he was trying to escape up the stairs. And so by putting that little bit of planning into the videos that you want to create, when you're doing a tour like this, you're going to be able to create a much more interesting and purposeful approach. By the way, my friend Armin, who recorded this video, has given me permission to use this as an example. And BBBS is one of my favorite organizations, Central Texas, great group. So no harm, no foul here with my friends there in Central Texas. So this is the tool that I would use to steady video. When you see me in Gainesville in about 10 weeks, you'll see me carrying this around. This is called the DJI Osmo Mobile 3. This is a less expensive version of the Osmo Mobile, which I also own. This will run you, I believe, about $150. But if you're doing videos where you're walking around a lot and you're creating content with motion, this is the exact tool that's going to help you create a super steady look to your videos. A Q&A is another great example of how you can
Facebook Live.
Get videos going.
I am excited to be chatting with you all tonight.
Again, I'm just going to kill the sound here, but you can see that this is the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation, the national office. They invited on a doctor to have a conversation about dietary choices with Crohn's and colitis. Now, I was like, there's no way that anyone's going to jump in the comments. No one's going to say anything, right? Nobody will talk about Crohn's and colitis. I couldn't possibly have been more wrong. This video got a ton of engagement and interaction, 356 comments, 19,000 views, over 100 shares. I was just blown away. And again, this goes back to that principle that you are all famous to a few people. Your message really matters. No matter what your message is, remember that you're speaking to those people in that North Central Florida community to whom your message matters. So don't worry about getting crazy with looking at the views and the shares and the comments. Switcher Studio is an app that I like to use. It is iOS based. And if you've seen some of my other Giving Day videos, if you want to check out givingdayguy.com, I talk about using Switcher Studio. If you want to get a more sophisticated look and feel than just using either Zoom or just Facebook natively, Switcher Studio is a tool that I highly recommend. If you'd rather use something that's desktop based, there's a tool called StreamYard is another one. Both of those are subscription based models. I know Switcher Studio recently introduced nonprofit pricing that's per month, but Switcher Studio is the tool that I use that allows me to create a little bit more sophisticated look and feel to the videos that I create. And I encourage you, again, to remember this one principle as well. The consistency is greater than frequency. So creating an awesome video is great, but the most important thing, the most important principle that I would drive home in your head is that consistency is greater than frequency, meaning committing to create one video every 2 weeks, or one video a week, or one video a day, depending on your ability to create, is what's going to set you apart from your competition on social media. Remember, your competition is not the 35 other people in this room right now. Your competition is Netflix. Your competition is television, right? Your competition is everything else that's competing for people's attention. So when you commit to being consistent, not only will you draw the attention of people on a regular basis, you will also get better at what you're doing. You will rewatch your own videos and say, oh, this could have been better. Our sound could have been better. Our videos could have been better. I see David's nodding his head, which is good. So when you commit to consistency, you're going to get better at what you do, and you're going to give your audience a reason to want to keep coming back as you go. This is what I really loved, again, to go back to the Child Advocacy Center, who I believe is in the audience today. Before they even got to that Maple Street Center, they had committed to consistently putting up one story a day for about a week and a half in advance of the Amazing Give 2019. And what that did was it conditioned their audience, their followers on Facebook, to know what was coming, to know that they could come back at 7 p.m. every day. And so it wasn't complicated. These are short little videos, but they said, check out our Facebook page. If you look there at the bottom of the screen, check out our Facebook page every day at 7 p.m. leading up to the Amazing Give. That told me as a viewer, okay, if I come back tomorrow, now I know what to expect, right? And I know if I am interested in this organization, that I can go back and I can rewatch all of these, kind of like you binge Netflix. You can go back and you can really learn a lot more about a specific organization as you want to do it. The biggest metric that matters if you're analyzing your data after the fact, I'm going to say, is average watch time. This is an example of one of the video reports that I presented to the Big Give in San Antonio, which is another Giving Day. And you see that I break down the total view time, the total views, impressions. All of those numbers matter. But when you go into Facebook and you're looking at your back-end data and your reports, compare and contrast over the course of that consistent set of videos that you've created. So 10, 12, 15 videos, take a look and see which one of those videos had the highest average view time. That's going to give you the best indication of which style of video that you created had the most interest from your audience. Again, you can see here that third row has the highest average view time of about 22 seconds. That's a pretty good amount of time for people to be watching a video on Facebook. We're going to move on quickly to Instagram. I see I have about 10 minutes to get through the rest of this presentation because I want to leave 10 minutes for questions. But I want you to vote again. So if you go to pollev.com/ChrisStrub882, or you send in that text message to 22333, I'm very curious, how much time do you think the average Instagram user spends on the platform per day? How much time does the average Instagram user spend on the platform per day? 11 minutes, 19 minutes, 26 minutes, 42 minutes, or 53 minutes? See these polls, Leslie, they give me a chance to take a little sip of water. which I will admit is easier in my apartment than it is when you're on stage. Looks like most of you guys think 43% say 42 minutes, 50% say 42 minutes. You're very close. The answer is 53 minutes. So if you're still voting, go ahead, vote 53 minutes so you get it right. 53 minutes a day on Instagram. So when all the nonprofits that I work with around the country tell me, oh, we just have a Facebook page, we only concentrate on Facebook. If you only concentrate on Facebook, you're ignoring a platform that the average Instagram user is spending 53 minutes a day on Instagram. So again, when we look at the benefits of Instagram, one reason why people spend so much time on Instagram is because it really is 4 apps in one. There's Instagram TV, there's Instagram Stories, you have direct messages, which you can access in the top right-hand corner of the screen, and of course your Instagram Grid, which is your grandma's Instagram, which everyone knows and loves, but that's not really where most of the attention is these days. In fact, we know that sometime in 2020, that stories are going to surpass feeds as the primary way that people are consuming content on social media. We know that Instagram is a huge focus for marketers in general in 2020. In fact, 74% say that they're going to focus on Instagram. That's more than that's about triple what the number is for Facebook. And here's the stat that I just mentioned. Again, in 2020, we do expect that Instagram stories are going to become the primary way that people are consuming content both on Instagram. And of course, we know now that Facebook owns Instagram. And so what we're going to continue to see is a continuing development and a continuing growth of stories on the Facebook platform itself. A lot of us are not creating Facebook stories now, but I can promise you based on this type of data that Facebook is going to continue to shove the stories platform down our collective throats in 2020 and beyond, because that's just the way that people are consuming content these days. Again, authenticity is everything. That's why people love watching stories. They want to see what you're authentically doing. If you go to my Instagram story right now at Chris Strub, you'll see a little boomerang that I did right before I jumped into Zoom with Leslie, where I'm like, it's webinar day, and I posted about my trip to Orange Theory Fitness this morning. Like, it's about authenticity. We don't want to see a lot of polish, a lot of scripting. We want to see what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. So posting the Instagram stories on a regular basis will help boost that algorithmic reach. I also encourage you to use Instagram highlights to share your best stories content. And I want you to make sure that you treasure every mention. I'm really going to move through these slides very quickly, although, like I said, I'm going to leave these in the slides that I'm going to send to you. But again, your Instagram highlights are those little dots that are right across right below your profile there. You see where it says puppy kisses, and I'll start this video again. So what this does is it allows me to save content in that stories format that was posted, according to this video, 68 weeks ago, right? So rather than that stories content disappearing after 24 hours, we're able to permanently preserve that in the Instagram stories highlights spot there. When you are creating stories, I encourage you to use polls and quizzes. You're going to see here, again, a little short video. Whoops. No, we're not going to see a little short video, but use those polls and quizzes to, maybe we are. Sorry, slight technical difficulties. We're zooming and we're PowerPointing at the same time. Polls and quizzes. So when you go to create an Instagram story, you're going to hit that little button there at the bottom of the screen, or you can pull something from your camera roll like I did there. And when you go up to the top part of that screen, you get that menu that's going to allow you to add sizzle to your Instagram stories. You can see here that I'm a Chicago Cubs fan and was able to add a poll question here that allowed me to ask my followers to name the athlete in the picture. Spoiler alert, it's Kyle Schwarber. Stories, quizzes and polls in your stories are a great way to continue to engage your audience actively, to be able to gather feedback from them. Rather than just speaking to them, people on social media want to be part of the conversation, and using something like a poll or a quiz is going to allow you to both engage with them in real time and for you to learn something about what they might know about what you're doing. Right? So I love using the example, like for a giving day, again, using these quizzes as sort of a leading question, right? So if I was going to say, okay, Leslie, like if we raise $6 million during the Amazing Give, I will, Leslie will get to pie me in the face. We'll be nice and we'll flip it around, right? So rather than saying like, should Leslie pie Chris in the face? Yes or no. You could say, what flavor pie should Leslie hit Chris with? And that way you're sort of leading them on with a question, and you're encouraging that engagement through that Instagram poll. You can use open-ended questions on Instagram as well. So the same idea, where if you want to be able to gather feedback, kind of like Leslie did at the beginning of this presentation, you can use questions in your Instagram stories, and then you can actually share those answers on Instagram. Again, I could do an entire 3 hours on just teaching the ins and outs of Instagram stories, but the real trick is play around with it. See what works for you. Use all the different tools, because they will really benefit your ability to tell stories in real time. I would add, relating to Instagram stories, there is a donate button on there. Of course, we don't want to use that during the Amazing Give, because you need to donate on the Giving Day website. But even the rest of the year, I have not seen any data from Facebook about the donate button, which is now over a year old. That is worrisome to me. It tells me that people just aren't using it and they aren't donating through it. So if you've thought about using the Instagram donate button, avoid it. However, if you have influencers that you work with, or you want to ask your supporters to ask their audiences to donate to your organization, that could be a much more effective way. But what I would not do as a nonprofit, I would not put a donate button in my own story. You could ask people to put it in their story, but don't put it in your own story. Long story short. I'm going to plow through these 5 apps. So maybe just take a screenshot of this, or like I said, look at these slides later. Whoops. Unfold, WordSwag, InShot, Mojo. These are all great apps that you can use to create more creative Instagram stories in that vertical 16:9 format. Mojo is one that you can use with video. I really enjoy it. As you can see, you can put that text in motion on your story, and it's really going to help stand out. I'm going to do Twitter in 2 minutes. So I'm going to leave these slides up here and get them sent to you. But again, I know, again, looking at all of you guys, I know that Twitter isn't really everybody's favorite app. However, it is my favorite app. It's helped me to connect with a lot of people. It actually helped me get started in the Giving Day space, which is a story that I won't really get into. But what happens in the world, it happens on Twitter first. So I really want you to at least keep in mind, even if you don't use Twitter at all throughout the rest of the year, when we do get to the Amazing Give, use that hashtag. And I'm going to be working with Leslie on ways that we can sort of figure out opportunities for everyone to sort of tweet at the same time, which is really going to help us trend as a Giving Day, which is what really opens up that whole new world of attention from people. Again, you can also drive conversations on Twitter. Proactive social listening can really help you find new donors. This is my favorite tweet of all time. This is from Linda Austin, again, from another Giving Day that I work with in St. Louis. It is hashtag Give STL Day, like going to the candy store, except donating and doing good in the community. So if you are the executive director or a VP at a nonprofit in St. Louis, and you see someone tweet that a Giving Day is like going to the candy store, this woman is basically holding up her checkbook and her credit card and saying, hello, chocolatier, what can I buy from you today? There are people, when they learn about these Giving Days and they learn about these different emotion-evoking opportunities, they want to give to you. And it broke my heart in St. Louis to see that not a single nonprofit had replied to this tweet or even clicked like, that this woman was basically saying, take my money, dear nonprofit, right? This is a VP of development's dream, is I am here to give you my money. Please just say hello to me and you can have it, right? And ultimately, of course, we all know the importance of cultivating relationships. Who knows if Linda Austin's going to give you $20 or $20,000? We can never make that judgment based on how many followers somebody has on Twitter. Again, don't assume on Twitter that anyone knows what you're talking about. On Facebook, I think you can be a little bit more familiar in that conversation. But on Twitter, you can create a little video like this with Laura Kane.
Hey, Laura here, your curiosity correspondent for the day. I'm here with Brian Terrell, our Science and Technology Curator here at the State Museum. Your donations don't just give us money to buy artifacts for the exhibits, but they help
us up in this new Apollo exhibit. It's about the history of the Apollo program. We have artifacts from our collection, from NASA, and from the Air and Space Museum. So come by and check it out.
Awesome. Don't forget, from 4 to 5 p.m. is our power hour. So if you're able to, we're encouraging you to give during that time. But if not, donations all day will go a long way. Thanks so much.
Curiosity correspondent. Like, I loved it. I love the concept. I love the fact that we used video on Twitter, which we all think is just text, 140 characters, 280 characters. If you're shooting video on Facebook, another thing that you can do is crop out. You can either use the whole video if it's short, or you can crop out a little piece of your video and you can post it to Twitter. You can also post that to your Instagram story and your Instagram grid to let people know that Facebook is where you do most of your work. Real quickly, because I know it's 2:50 and I want to get to your questions. The one tweet Twitter strategy that I've written about and I've spoken about on podcasts. If you don't want to do anything on Twitter, post one tweet to your Twitter account that says, hey, look, we don't tweet. Like, Twitter is not our thing. But every week we're creating live videos on Facebook, Thursday morning at 10 a.m. Come check us out there. Here's the link to our Facebook page. So if your back door is closed and shut down and boarded up, put a little sign that says, we're not closed. Come on around to the front door, then you can come on in and you can see all the special stuff that we're doing. Again, I've got a couple more examples here of nonprofits using video on Twitter, which really helps bring it home, but I do want to get to your spoiler alert. There was a dunk tank. They said, come dunk our executive director. Then people donated. The executive director got dunked and we got the payoff. So, and the last point that I would make about Twitter, use existing conversations and play off of them. So if you're not sure what to tweet, again, this is a tweet from the mayor of Columbia, South Carolina, who's excited to be a philanthropist today. He's got obviously a ton of followers, a ton of conversations taking place on his account. Jump in on those existing conversations that are already taking place around the Giving Day or around the community. So that's pretty much all I have. You guys can both vote on this question here now. pollev.com/chrisstrub882, or again, the same text alert there. How do you feel about social media now? My hope is that intimidated and scared and worried and frightened are all gone, and that we get a lot more happy adjectives here. See how it all ties together, although I went a minute over my time here. But I do want to say thank you guys for joining me today. And you can see your reactions here. Ready, promising, great. I love it. So that's a good sign. I'm glad you guys can take something from today. Again, I apologize. I moved pretty quickly through everything. But I've written blog posts on almost everything that we've talked about today. So if there's something specific that you really want to dive deeper into, you can look at my website, givingday.com. And Leslie, I'm happy to take a couple questions if you wanted to throw those my way.
Sure. And feel free, if anybody wants to have questions, go in the chat. If you have questions, you can unmute yourself, or feel free to send them. I've gotten a couple of questions. I know you touched on a little bit. I've gotten 2 questions about the same topic. Basically, they can be summed up with, have limited resources. What should I do? And I know you touched on that at the beginning, but we could touch on that again.
Commit to creating as consistent a Facebook live video strategy as you are capable. So you don't need to buy any of the equipment. We saw the video from Maple Street Biscuit Company. If all you can do is put your phone on your desk and click record once a week or even once a month, that's where I would start. I would start there and say, here's our nonprofit monthly update or our bi-weekly update or whatever it might be. But I want you to think about how consistency is greater than frequency. I want you to think about the principle that we talked about, that Facebook is really going to be your jumping off point. That's where people are going to learn more about what you're doing. We all have limited resources, and that's the whole shebang. That's the whole enchilada with being a nonprofit social media consultant, is how do we do this with less? How do we do this with a little bit of time? I would commit to look at your calendar, pick a time, whether it's once a month, once a week, but whatever it is, don't just do it once. Block out that time on your calendar, put it, take out a notepad and say, what are the 10 stories that my nonprofit can tell on a consistent basis? And then we have 10 weeks till the Amazing Give. Even if you come on Facebook Live for 5 minutes and tell a story for 5 minutes once a week, that's where I would start.
Great, thank you. Here's our next question. It says, hey, Chris, you talked about a social media plan. What does that mean and what does it look like?
Looks like, I would say it starts with what I just described. It can be that simple. And again, I think that your social media, everything that you do on social media should tie into your mission. It should tie into who you are as, again, this is both for-profit and nonprofit speak. Who are you as a company? Who are you as a nonprofit? What are you trying to accomplish? And then your content needs to work up towards that. But from a strategic perspective, to me, that strategy is, what is the blanket? What are the threads that we can sew consistently on a regular basis, right? So our strategy, again, with an objective of, boy, Leslie, this is just calling out from another presentation that I did. The video that you're going to do needs to tie into the objective that you have as an organization. Again, we're speaking loosely about the Amazing Give today, but even outside of that, I want you to think about what your number one objective is as an organization. Do we need to identify new donors? Do we need to find more volunteers? Do we need to identify new board members? Do we, look at what the big question is that you're trying to accomplish outside of social media, and then create videos that solve that purpose. Create videos that speak directly to that purpose. So if I was trying to recruit more volunteers, then I would create a video strategy that is based around our volunteers. That's different than creating a strategy that's based around trying to boost donations or trying to recruit more board members and sponsors, right? So look first at what your fundamental need is, your number one fundamental need. And I get it. It's June 2020. We all need donations. We're all starving, right? It's a terrible time to be in business, especially in the nonprofit sector. So it's likely that that's your answer. But I would look at how you can tie the videos that you're creating into that specific objective, and then look at how you can multiply that out and set that out on a consistent basis.
Great. And I know we had someone ask to unmute to speak, but we did have one more question, and then we'll get to Dee's question, and that might be all the time we have. But the last question that was typed in was, I'm trying to summarize this, is how do we engage while being fun and honest to our mission organization? If maybe, I think what they're trying to say is, how do we be funny and engaging when maybe our mission is serious?
I don't know that you necessarily have to be. I think that you should be who you are, and you should remember that even serious messages have important ramifications, and they just speak to a different audience, right? Again, not everyone should try and be like Chris, the Giving Day guy with the goofy shirt and the hat and the lights and all this stuff. Like, your videos and your voice should speak to your mission. It shouldn't speak to my mission. Now, I like playing off of energy and enthusiasm and making people smile and all that sort of stuff, but again, when you're the rape crisis center or you're a drug rehab center, I talk a lot, Leslie, about the 90-9-1 rule. 90% of content on social media never gets commented on, and only 9% of people really comment on stuff. With nonprofits, it's more like the 99-1 rule. Like, most people don't want to jump in and comment and actively engage on nonprofit content, but they may learn something critical from it. That's why I start by saying you are famous to a few people, and that could be people with a drug problem. That could be kids who are in danger, who are being abused, and who need to hear, the hotline. Like, don't move away from your mission just by trying to be like other people on social media. Speak directly to those who need to hear what you're saying, even if it's hard to say.
Great. Thank you for that. And so, Dee, you wanted to unmute, and this will be our final question.
No, I was just clarifying, sort of a double question. You said you were going to email out your PowerPoint afterwards, and has Amazing Give been moved to August since we couldn't do it in spring this year?
Yes. So the Amazing Give that was originally set up for April has been moved to August 19th and 20th, but currently the Amazing Give emergency relief page is up. And so I know there's organizations that are participating in the emergency relief, and then we also have organizations participating in the Amazing Give. So if your organization is not registered and you're interested in learning more, I'll put my email down here in the chat, and you can email the Community Foundation to ask those questions about getting your organization registered if you do have questions for directly about the Amazing Give. And so that's a great, and there my emails is in there, and that's a great segue into wrapping us up, Chris. And I know you had some final comments, but I did want to say that Chris will be in Gainesville for the Amazing Give on August 19th and 20th. We are still working out logistics on exactly how Chris will be helping us, but just because we know that there will be a lot of virtual things going on as social distancing may still be in place, we may not be able to do a lot of the gatherings that we've been able to do in the past with Amazing Give. And so we're working out the details with Chris on what that looks like. But our plan is to have Chris available to our nonprofits. And so really he will be here at the Community Foundation, but really helping you, the nonprofits, get your message out, and we'll figure out logistically how we'll do that soon, and we'll be in touch. If you have not found the Amazing Give nonprofit partner page on Facebook, please find that page. That's how we get out a lot of our information to organizations. So look for us, ask to join. And Chris, I'll let you wrap it up with any final thoughts, and we look forward to you being with us soon.
Absolutely. First off, again, thank you, Leslie. And I know Barzella is watching or listening as well. So thank you both for everything. I look forward to seeing all of you guys in Gainesville. I've never been there before, so that's going to be fun. I'll bring even more floral shirts. If you're not registered for the Amazing Give, Leslie told me that registration is still open. So giving days are awesome. That's why I chose the Giving Day space to work in. If you go to givingday.com, you can read about the other Giving Days that I've worked with. This will be my first time working with the Amazing Give. And it's an awesome way, especially if you're looking to attract new donors, which I know is something that we're all looking for in 2020. I know that Leslie and the team do a wonderful job with the Amazing Give, and I'm incredibly grateful to be part of it. In the meantime, yes, Dee, I will make sure that Leslie gets my slides out to you guys. And if you want to connect with me on social media, there you go. I'm at Chris Strub across all these different channels. Thank you again. It was great to meet you all, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you.